Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Blues feed for it's going to be a great episode. We just beat Barcelona 3-0. I'm buzzing. Danny's buzzing. Danny's nearly lost his voice from all his singing last night. Come on, Danny, give me a quick one-liner before we get deep into it.
Well, first I'll preface, if there's any voice breaks, don't take the piss out of me in the comments, because I was screaming my head off all game. But yeah, I mean, my one-liner was absolute. It was Maresca magic. He dominated them again. Very good on his big game management, but we'll talk about that in a bit. And we just dominated them. They just looked naive. They didn't know what to do, and we just absolutely battered them. Apart from that one chance in the first half, I don't think they had an opportunity. So yeah.
Yeah, it was brilliant. Obviously, I was watching from home on the sofa, so not quite as enjoyable as you, but I still had a fantastic evening. Before we get deeper into the pod, just remind everyone of our 1K subscriber giveaway, where we need you all to like, comment, and subscribe to enter. Once you've done that, and once we hit 1,000 subscribers, we'll be giving away a Chelsea shirt from this season. Maybe with a Champions League badge on it. Maybe with Estevao on the back.
Maybe.
You'll only find out once we get to 1K subscribers. So
drop us a like. Drop us a like as well for smashing Barcelona 3-0. And drop us a comment saying fuck Barcelona because they're whiny little bitches. Put that in the comments as well.
Make sure you share it with all your Barcelona friends, because it'd be good for them to listen to a good team. Anyway, let's get back to sort of the preview of the Barcelona game quickly. We've got a few comments that were score predictions that we had added to our comment section, and a couple of there was an Estevao prediction in there as well. So we're going to share comments rather than one comment this time round. So we've got P Neighbour B9L8U, who said, my prediction 3-1. We assume he means to Chelsea. I hope so. Close as we got, same as Ricky Phillips 1080. I will be there. Let's hope we put in a performance we are capable of. 3-1 Chelsea. Two good predictions. I didn't predict a clean sheet. Danny didn't predict a clean sheet. I don't think anybody did. We're going to come
4
on
in a row though
in a little while, and yeah, lots of clean sheets in recent weeks. So good predictions.
I have to say on that as well, with the Ricky comment of like he was there, that was probably one of the best atmospheres I've been to at Stamford Bridge. Like period, it was absolutely rocking from the minute it started, or even before the game started. There was just a real buzz, and we need the same against Arsenal, because I think that really helped the team. It just gave them so much energy, and it was so good. It was back to like the good old days when we were winning loads and everybody was up for it all the time, and you had the Matthew Arden singing to each stand, give us a song, and it was rocking. It was unbelievable.
I can't remember a time where the atmosphere was in and around that level and we lose games of football. So generally, I do find that if the atmosphere is of that sort of electricity, we win games. And if we can do that against Arsenal Sunday, then God knows what we can do. And then Tim M1370, I have a feeling Estevao will start. Tim, you was bang on. Not only did he start, but fucking hell, what a performance that was from him. 18 years old and doing that against one of the biggest sides in Europe is just phenomenal. So thank you all for your comments. We'll break down Estevao probably quite a lot through this podcast, to be honest. I think it's going to be a big talking point. But we're gonna move into the Barcelona game now, and we're gonna make you wait a little bit for the Estevao chat. Danny, before we get into more specifics, come on, give me it. How was it? Give me your overall sort of takeaway from the game, aside from the obvious stuff that we all know. But come on, break it down for us.
I mean, mate, it was just like I said at the start. It was just absolute domination from start to finish. Very, very clear plan of what was going on. They were pushing. It was pushing Gusto up. They were pushing Cucurella up to nullify the kind of wingers, so they didn't really have the wingers as an outlet into feet. And you had Fofana being aggressive as well, and you had Trev as a bit of a sweeper in there, which you can kind of see from the kind of average position map on the right hand side. You had a very clear pivot of Caicedo and James, but pushing Caicedo on to be more aggressive. So it kind of created like the four in defence with James right in front, and then Caicedo and Enzo as like a pivot in front of that. So it was like kind of more of a three in midfield with Neto joining in there, and then the wingers were high and very wide and getting in behind lots. So to be honest, I'll give myself a bit of props. I said the midfield battle will be key, and the wingers need to be high and wide and get in behind them, and that's exactly what we did. Created so many chances. I think we scored 6 or 7 goals, like with all the ones that were ruled out. So yeah, just complete and utter domination. To be honest with you.
Yeah, I don't remember a performance where we were that dominant for a long, long time. Even the Club World Cup final against PSG, they had their moments, had their chances. We didn't
They
give
came back
Barca.
into it, didn't they? In PSG, they
Yeah,
had a bit of possession, and just before half time, I think it was, they just started to get back into it. But um, I have to say as well, probably the first performance this year where we were good for 90 minutes.
aside from probably
Uh,
the Liverpool game at home,
yes,
but yeah, I would say
but even in
I'd
the
probably
Liverpool
agree with
game,
that.
we did dip for a bit and let them back
Yeah,
into it, and then we had to go again. But last night was just domination from start to finish.
yeah, it was complete dominance, and it was fantastic. And well, we're definitely set up at the moment, I think, more to be a one-off game team rather than a consistent league challenging team, which is fine. But if we're going to keep producing performances like that in the Champions League, then who knows where we can end up by the end of the season.
I mean,
Danny, I
they
want
were
to have a
talking
quick.
on that point just before we move on. I was listening to Talk Sport on the drive back, and there was people like obviously they get a bit carried away after the games, and they're talking about, oh, we could win the league. We're one of the best teams in Europe, and I think on our day we absolutely are. But I think we are much more set up to win the Champions League than we are to win the Premier League.
Completely
A
agree.
bit like we said in the preview. I'm more scared about Leeds away than I am Arsenal at home, and that's got nothing to do with the home or away or anything like that. It's just against Arsenal, Maresca gets the tactics spot on against big games. Everybody gets up for it. We play at our top level. Whereas like Leeds away will be a little bit like we should beat them, and we just don't seem to get to that level. So I think Champions League we're more likely to win. I'm not saying we will win it, but we're more likely to win the Champions League. And I have to say, anybody who comes to the draw when we go through, be that in the top 8 or be that in the playoff rounds, no one will want to draw us.
No, especially like last night proved at the bridge, we are just going to be horrible to play against.
Yep.
If because the fans know now that, and it's atmospheres are always better of an evening during the week. It just generally happens that way. And
Less tourists as well,
anybody that
which we have a
comes,
bit of at Stamford Bridge, like people who are just coming because they're in London and Fulham and
yeah,
stuff like that.
anybody that comes to the bridge is going to have a torrid time in the Champions League this season. And we need to get back to how we used to be, of the bridge being a fortress for all competitions, and that includes the Premier League. And no better place to continue that by Sunday, and hopefully taking on Arsenal. Obviously, we're gonna preview the Arsenal game later in the week, so I don't want to touch too much on that. I do want to have a quick chat about the defence, Danny, and
Hmm.
I'll kick it off. I want to talk more generally before I ask you a couple of specifics. I think, firstly, in recent weeks, we just look so much more solid defensively. There's been a couple of little tactical tweaks by Maresca, and it's the first time for a while that it doesn't massively matter who's been playing, but we just look a little bit more solid. Like obviously at the weekend you had Tosin played, and then during the week you got Fafana played, Gusto played right back yesterday, James played right back Sunday, along with he got taken off at half time, and then Trev obviously moved across, etc., etc. It just looks a lot more solid at the moment, and I think a lot of that comes down to Rob Sanchez. I think he looks in his best vein of form, probably of his career. He looks composed, he looks calm, and he looks like, for the most part, the brain farts have gone, which is then breeding confidence in the people in front of him, which is it's really noticeable at the minute that there's a confidence about our defence. Um, I want to have a quick chat about Malo Gusto before we move on to the fullback on the other side of the pitch. I think that might have been his best performance in a Chelsea shirt last night. He had a great season in the Poch year, not so much last year, moving in and out of midfield. But I thought Malo Gusto was fantastic last night. He was tenacious. He won the ball well. He tackled well. He used it well. I was just really, really impressed. What did you think seeing him live?
Yep. Yeah, no, he was very good. He was, yeah, like you say, very aggressive, very tenacious. lots of energy. And I also have to tip Maresca for taking him off at half time and kind of nullifying the threat of going down to 10 men as well, because he was being so aggressive that he could have got himself sent off if he carried on. So top performance. But yeah, it was really good to see him to come off and put Santos into midfield, who played very well as well.
Yeah, I think Gusto might have picked up an injury um, from that
Okay.
Lewandowski challenge, but I'm not 100% certain. I think it would have been minimal if so. Danny, I want to leave the um, descriptions, plaudits, and everything else you want to describe him with of Marc Cucurella to you, because I mean I've spoke about my love for him quite a lot. I know you have as well. Last night he was fantastic, and you were there in person. He completely locked up Lamine Yamal, didn't he?
Absolutely. I think in Heathrow when they're flying back, I think Cucurella might have been in the toilet while Yamal was having a wee before he got on the flight. That's how much he followed him around and completely and utterly um, just diminished him. And he just had nothing. And you could see he was just pissed off all game because he just had Cucurella just snapping at his heels the whole entire game. Um, and the thing is, I think it gets back to the point now where you're a bit like to the levels of like when we had Ashley Cole of if their best player is their right winger, I'm not too worried because Cucurella will deal with him. And then you've got Reece James on the other side who'll deal with their other winger. You've got Caicedo who can deal with any 10. Like we're getting to a point where we've got people in these positions where we absolutely nullify their threat. And I have to say, I think Cucurella, sorry, is the best left back in the world. I'm not sure I take any left back over Cucurella.
No, especially for his defensive contributions, because obviously people will talk about the likes of Nuno Mendes, which fantastic fullback, but there is no way that he competes with Cucurella from a defensive standpoint. And like you say, the amount of times over the last sort of 18 months to 2 years that we've played an Arsenal, a Liverpool, who their star player is their right winger, Saka or Salah, or whoever else you want to describe it as, and he's locked them up. I think the only player he's had even a slight trouble with was Elise against Bayern, but I think the team were just off it generally that night anyway. But
Didn't get a lot of
overall,
help either.
exactly. But
Whereas
overall,
Garnacho helped a lot last night. It might have not
yeah, I
come
was
across on
impressed.
the telly or what
Yeah,
have you, but he was there and he might not have done that much defensively as in tackles and interceptions and stuff like that,
there.
but he was always there. He tucked in quite a lot to not allow the ball to go into midfield again. He did pressure him when he needed to, so I was very impressed from a defensive point of view from Garnacho, to be fair.
Yeah, I agree. But yeah, Kukurea fantastic again. We talk about Caicedo every episode, Danny, and I don't want to waste too much time on it because we use the same words on him. I mean, to be honest, I'm actually starting to run out of words and superlatives to describe him. But again, last night he was so good.
It's getting to the point where last night he was absolutely amazing, but I kind of just expect it because he's that
Yeah,
consistent. Like I didn't actually walk away from the game thinking, "Oh my God, Caicedo was just played out of his skin." It was just he played like Caicedo does in big games. Like I know we both predicted man of the match for him, and he could have won man of the match because he was that good. But I didn't even think about him for man of the match because he just did a Caicedo thing and just
yeah. I
carried
think
on
I
playing
think
well.
he gets a little bit of Caicedo tax now, doesn't he? That because you
Yeah.
expect him to be that good, that he has to do even more to then win a man of the match. And I think that's even coming across at punditry level, because obviously they end up selecting man of the match for the most part. I think that's a real issue for him now, that because people expect him to be so good, he will struggle to win those sorts of honours. But
But
his
that's fine
usual,
because keep him as he is. Don't put too much pressure on him. Don't
yeah,
keep talking about it. Let him just
yeah,
stick
agree.
under the radar and just keep doing what he's doing and let him lock up the Arsenal midfield in the weekend, and then they'll all shout about how great Rice is, but then actually Caicedo will just go and destroy him at the weekend. So that's fine.
Yeah, exactly
Sleep on
that.
him if you want. No worries, boys.
The um the usual midfield partner of Enzo Fernandez, obviously he played a little bit further forward. Caicedo had Reece James next to him for the most part, and then Andre Santos a bit later in the game. But like you said in the preview, the midfield was spot on last night. It just worked so well. Enzo Fernandez was fantastic. He gets a lot of un, unwarranted criticism, Enzo Fernandez, at times for me. But last night he just proved that he is the cog in this team.
Hmm.
Caicedo off the ball, we struggle without him. Enzo Fernandez on the ball, we struggle without him. And last night, I just think he kept the ball ticking so well, kept it moving, knew where the space was. His passing range is phenomenal. And obviously, I know we're gradually moving up the pitch, but just wow. I was just so
Yeah, I mean,
impressed.
he was an attacking threat. He was Yeah, he was an attacking threat forward. He was in the box, but also dropped in to help the midfield defensively, but also to kick the ball around. He played lots of balls out wide and spread the balls, and he was very energetic. And I think people don't quite realize because he's not that athletic or speed, but he covers so much ground. He is consistently our highest player for the most ground covered. So
Yeah.
just because he doesn't look athletic, people think he's a bit slow and bit he's not kind of athletic, as I say, but he covers so much ground and does so much. He now also has 35 goal involvements in his last 64 games for Chelsea in this country. He's got 15 goals and 20 assists in his last 64 games for club and country.
He's going under the radar. He's having a fantastic season as well because it's not just the goals; it's what he does. It's what he brings to the team. And I think it is probably hard for him. Like we're saying with Caicedo, there's a tax around him. Fernandez probably gets taxed on the fact that, um, well, that he plays with Caicedo.
Yep.
So I think that's a little struggle for him because it's really hard to bust out of the shadow of Moises Caicedo because of just how good he is. But
I
he's
thought,
not been. There's been no midfielders in the Premier League that have been involved in more goals than him. He's got, Joe. He's third. No, sorry, he's fourth in the entire Premier League for expected goals and assists per 90, only behind Haaland, Mateta, and Igor Thiago.
well,
Just ridiculous. He's fifth for progressive passes in the league and ninth for chances created. Like he's having a fantastic season,
he's a great
and
player.
yeah, he is. He's so good.
I said it
And
in, I don't know if it was the preview of this game or the reaction to the game before, but I said when Enzo Fernandez has a bad game, Chelsea play bad.
yeah, it's true. And if he's not there, if he's not on the pitch, we struggle on the ball.
Yeah,
We
absolutely.
really do struggle
Which
on the
is
ball.
why I prefer Santos to be the cover for Caicedo and can play in the Enzo role because I think he's so key that actually we don't want to be resting Enzo Fernandez. And
Yeah,
actually, I think if you go into the transfer window, probably not January, I don't think it's needed, but in the summer, I think um, we might need to have a look at some sort of profile to give him some rest and do something similar to
yeah.
Enzo Fernandez
Well,
if you can.
because we spoke about Lavia the other week, didn't we? And I think in replacing Lavia's sort of squad presence, not that he's often in the squad, but just generally, I think rather than getting a similar profile to him, like you say, we use the Santos and Isugu as sort of backup holding midfielders, and we need an Enzo Fernandez shaped backup rotation, whatever word you'd like to use for it, because he's pivotal in the way we play. And like you say, he does need rest. He's a human. At the end of the day, he can't play 90 minutes 65 times a season. It just doesn't work. But yeah, that's where I'd be looking at. Estevao, I think, is the next place to go and the way to finish talking about individuals on the pitch. Um, wow.
Yeah, Esther, wow.
what what do you say about an 18-year-old that does that on the biggest stage in the biggest game of his career so far?
There's not much you can say, to be honest, mate. And he's only one of three to score as a teenager to score in their first three Champions League starts. I know the other one was Haaland. I can't remember what the third one is, but I
he's
saw it
he's
last night.
he's second youngest behind Mbappe, who's the youngest, and then Haaland
Must be
behind.
it. Yeah, so it
Haaland
was
behind
Mbappe,
Estevao.
Haaland, and Estevao. So
Yeah,
he's keeping pretty good company there.
not too
Um,
shabby, is it?
no, I mean Cucurella nullified Lamine Yamal, but Estevao just outperformed him in any way, shape, or form. He was just absolutely unbelievable. Everything he does turns to gold. Um, everything he looks dangerous. Defenders shit themselves. They get two people on him all times, and he still manages to wriggle through. Um, he works hard as well. And I think the biggest thing about him is he's got a good head on his shoulders. He's got good family around him. He's a God fearing man. He pretty much plays football, works out, goes to church, and that's it. And I think that's why overall I think Esteban will have a better career and what have you than a Yamin Yamal, because Yamin Yamal likes the parties, likes the girls, and he's got a bit of an attitude, whereas Esteban doesn't. Um, I have to say, I think I'd be more of the Yamin Yamal arrogance than actually the church going work hard kind of player. But um, yeah, I think that's why Estevao will have a better career than Yamin Yamal, not talent wise. It's just application and attitude. And yeah, he's just ridiculous.
Just crazy. And then, do you know what? I actually fear for Maresca a little bit because how how do you get then Cole Palmer into this team? Next year, Quenda into this team, another number 9 back into this team because Neto played as the 9 to match the game plan. We're not going to play Neto as a 9 unless we play another high line like that. Like it's a fantastic dilemma to have, but it's also a massive migraine
Mm.
for the manager, isn't it? Um, but yeah, I'm very interested, and I think something that we've maintained over the last few weeks is we're intrigued by the use of the squad and the way that Maresca does that. And 2 games deep, 2 clean sheets, 5 goals, could have been more. Like really, really impressive. I
I have
just
to
want to.
say, I am always criticised for my criticism of Enzo Maresca, but you have to say, from a big game perspective, a one-off game tactics, Enzo Maresca gets it spot on so many times, and the people he has beaten, like managers and teams wise, in Flick, in Enrique and PSG, and Slot at Liverpool, hopefully Arteta at Arsenal at the weekend. It's just he seems to get it spot on. So for all of my criticism of him, I have to take my hat off and say to him, he gets the big games spot on, and I have real confidence in him in these big games. So fair play to you, keep doing it, and maybe I'll become a Maresco fanboy. Maybe.
The thing for me with Maresca has never been the big games. It's more the consistency and the sort of motivation behind the team when we have the games like the Sunderland game that we lost. But like you say, the big games for Maresca, I just think he gets it spot on so well. And it's like last night before the game, I was a little bit worried because we both pretty much predicted the lineup there or thereabouts by 1 or 2. But the tactics we got spot on in terms of Reece would be in midfield for his physicality. You'd have Gusto at right back. We'll press high. You're going to stretch them. Like we said, we didn't know who was going to play up front because we knew we were going to want to stretch them in behind. And I was a bit worried that if you and I can see that as just general public, well, how are Barcelona not going to see that and be able to react to it? But it's so obvious what Maresca's going to do, yet it can't be stopped. And it's the PSG game, the Barca game last night, the Liverpool game. Those games, he has put in similar tactics, different tweaks here and there to suit the game plan, but generally a similar tactic. And it so far it's not been stopped. So I'm just very interested to see how it goes with the Arsenal game, and just massive, massive plaudits to Enzo Maresca for the way that he sets his teams up in these big games. If he can now find a way to do it in the smaller games to work out the best way for us to break down a low block, then that's when I'll say, do you know what, fair play. Enzo Maresca is the manager for Chelsea Football Club because he is doing a fantastic job in these big games. And I want him to succeed. I think people get that the wrong way round when we talk about Maresca and we give him criticism, because we only give criticism because we want Chelsea to be at the top. And if he can change that small game mentality and the ability to beat a low block, then I think he'll be one of the best managers on the planet. But
Yeah,
right now, he is currently one of the best managers on the planet for a big game. And I don't think there's many I'd take over him.
fair enough. I can't disagree with a lot of that. His my biggest criticism of him is the smaller games and also playing players out of position for no reason. And he's doing that less. And let's see how we go for see how we go with the little games, because that's the only thing that's going to stop us pushing on even further. So, I think the last thing I wanted to talk about, Luke, just before we wrap up the episode, was just kind of where we're at within the Champions League now. So we're fifth, obviously with a few people to still play tonight, but we're fifth. Bless me. With 10 points. That pretty much guarantees us to get through to the playoffs. If you look at the history from last year, with needing, I believe it's 6 more points based off last year to qualify for the top 8, which I think is quite key for us because it's just less games. We have Atalanta, Paphos, and Napoli away to finish in the next 3 games in the Champions League. If we can go and beat Atalanta and beat Pathos, then we won't really need to worry about Napoli, because we should be into the top 8 and guaranteed moving forward. So top 8 last year was 16 points. So yeah, we need 2 more wins.
Wow.
So it's
Yeah,
looking good.
it is looking good. And like we said from the start, we got to deal with the home games, which we've done so far. I think we're 3 from 3 at home. We played 3, yeah, Barcelona, Benfica, and Ajax. Yeah, we're 3 from 3 at home. So that's good. We said this at the start, didn't we? 4 from 4 at home, get a couple of draws on the road, and then you're pretty much guaranteed top 8. So yeah, if we can nick a win in Italy somewhere, as well as beating Paphos at home, you'd like to think we're then through to the final 8, which is good. So yeah, um,
Cool.
fantastic. Just really, really happy. Really good feeling around the club right now. We'll be back on Friday to preview the Arsenal game, where hopefully we can carry on this good moment and carry on the momentum into the Premier League. Thank you all for listening and watching. Make sure you subscribe, comment, and drop us a like, and we will be back Friday morning.